Cobra Kai.
Come on, Johnny. You want to do this?
The smash hit web series is nothing short of a multi-generational success.
Now you are definitely speaking my language.
But why does this light-hearted continuation of the original Karate Kid movie series work? Feel free to like and subscribe, and let's find out. In a nutshell, Cobra Kai turns the original movie series on its head and tells a story from the perspective of the original film's quote-unquote bad guy bully, Johnny Lawrence. At least in the first season. In reality, people are complex, and that horrible bully from your youth may also have had a troubled youth and subsequent life.
The kid's a social reject. He doesn't have a single friend.
You know what? I hated this damn job anyway.
Cobra Kai encapsulates this potential reality and uses it as its basis for reinvigorating the Karate Kid franchise. Basically, it's a double-edged sword of pop cultural meta-nostalgia for the 80s.
Did you know LaRusso showed Miguel Top Gun?
Top Gun? Yes, sir.
Whilst telling a very much current story of aging Gen Xers both holding on to and trying to let go of past trauma from their youth, whilst trying to teach the right not wrong lessons to their Gen Z offspring. The scene in the first episode where over-the-hill ex-high school stud Johnny Lawrence, now in his 50s, tries to chat up her Instagram generation babe in person and gets rejected instantly, highlights this double-edged sword. On the one hand, this can evoke nostalgia for the 80s, where there was no internet and Gen Xers could drive around the valley in mummy and daddy's sports car and chat up babes all day long. This scene is a microcosm of the show, hinting at a pre-internet time when the original movies came out, whilst hands-on facing the realities of the current day. The washed-up has-been ex-high school jock Johnny Lawrence, who once lived in the upscale Encino, is now living in an apartment complex in Reseda.
I'm Miguel. My family and I just moved into 109.
In contempt of his Hispanic neighbours.
Great, more immigrants.
That is, until he takes underdog Gen Z teenager Miguel under his wing as his karate student protege.
Somebody always wins. That's how fights work.
Lawrence's ex-adversary and ex-high school underdog Danial LaRusso, however, is no longer in Reseda, as he was when he arrived from Newark, New Jersey, but has now made a life for himself as a successful car salesman and is living with his wife and 2 kids in Encino. Of course, in terms of parallel narratives, LaRusso ends up mentoring Lawrence's estranged rebel son, Robbie, and thus you have Cobra Kai, the tale of ex-Gen X high school karate and romance opponents now living under reversed social roles in the modern age, trying to mentor the digital native generation to not be tech dependent and learn the ways of karate.
That's what happens when you broadcast your life all over social media.
Hence the show's multi-generational audience reach. The first season was like the original Karate Kid movie, unexpected lightning in a bottle. As the seasons progressed, some critics have argued the quality decreased a little bit.
Suspension of disbelief.
Suspension of disbelief.
But overall, the consistent good quality, I feel, is Cobra Kai's confidence in itself as a show, and its confidence in its meta references and references to the pop cultural world of the 80s that spawned the franchise to begin with.
Where's Chicago? I'm gonna pretend you didn't say that.
What happened in Chicago?
Glory of love. Peter Cetera's badass.
Haha.
Peter Cetera is the opposite of badass.
A fusion of current day digital technology's critique tied in with delicious, self-referential references to Peter Cetera, Michael McDonald, etc. A healthy dose, not overdose, of 80s feel-good nostalgia organically tied in to a current storyline.
Michael McDonald.
Sash dash mush. You are the magic. If it wasn't enough that by series 3 of Cobra Kai, they brought back Ali with an eye.
You can't live in the past.
Years after she'd moved on from the franchise to get seduced, infatuated, impregnated, discarded, and then eventually wed by a prime TC in CT. They then, in the 4th series, had the meta cross-movie referential nod to Johnny Lawrence arguing Iceman over Maverick in Top Gun.
Love that movie. Tom Cruise is so handsome.
Cruise is the worst in that.
I can't hear you.
Cruise is the worst in that. You can't call yourself a maverick. Here you got the real deal, Iceman, best of the best.
The most iconic mid-80s testosterone fest,
What's your problem, Kazansky?
You're everyone's problem.
with male romance undertones. Of course, meta-wise, Lawrence picks the obnoxious, overconfident blonde dude over TC,
That's right.
who bedazzled the living daylights out of his chick in CT.
You are an original.
The blonde MILF didn't actually really like Cruise. She was just the nerd who dedicated the majority of her 20s to studying astrophysics in the library. She only hooked up with the cruise master because she was anxious about hitting 30, and 23-year-old TC threw his in her face in the most amateur, inexperienced fashion known to mankind.
Excuse me, miss. You never close your eyes.
I've never seen that approach.
Any other point in her life when he comes onto her, she f***s him off.
Cruises are worse than that.
Ali with an eye, on the other hand, she was into him.
Kids would look really great in dreadlocks too.
Kids?
These meta nods and references make Cobra Kai Tarantino-esque.
Top Gun?
Top Gun.
In their nods to other pop culture.
Like a Virgin's not about some sensitive girl.
When you tie that in with younger Gen Z kids actually going through character arcs
Kids?
of nerd to competent karate competitor,
I'm at peace with my depression.
You have the high ground. That's how Obi-Wan beat Anakin, right?
of course, Cobra Kai isn't just one big self-indulgent nostalgia fest, as opposed to the Star Wars prequels, sequels, etc. First of all, the prequels look like a f***ing cartoon. They make a whole unnecessary plotline about when Darth Vader was a kid, all from a line or two of expositional dialogue.
Your father was seduced by the dark side.
Then the sequels attempted to do what Cobra Kai has successfully done, which is make new and interesting next generation characters. In the first one they were onto something, then completely dropped the ball. In Kai Season 3, we saw an actual unforced on-screen return of the original movie love triangle. In all the Star Wars sequels, we never got one scene with the original returning love triangle participants. Oh, but how could it be a love triangle when Luke and Leia were siblings?
Well, I guess you don't know everything about women yet.
No, bruv.
Who is she? She's beautiful.
They were only wrote in that way for the third movie
Leia.
because Han and Leia had palpable chemistry.
Leia's my sister.
He's my brother.
I know.
In terms of Cobra Kai's backstory subplots working, as opposed to the Star Wars CGI prequels, here's the difference. Cobra Kai is a web series, spanning multiple episodes and seasons, with enough space for a current, fresh narrative, as well as some backstory as to why Lawrence was a bully jerk in terms of his rich, unloving stepdad. Also, in terms of Americana, which make no mistake, Cobra Kai is modern Americana. Having the John Kreese and Terry Silver Vietnam backstory is in line with the great American Vietnam War movies. And show-wise, some of the best Quantum Leap episodes were the Vietnam War back-to-back episodes. Literally some of the best TV I ever saw in the early 90s.
I'm sorry, Sam. He's still killed in Vietnam. All right, little brother.
In terms of the criticism for the new characters, the LaRusso daughter Sam, I'm like, she does what she's meant to do. She's a character who's entitled and a bit princessy. So in terms of her romantically bouncing between Miguel once he becomes cool, then Johnny Lawrence's son Robbie once he's in the picture, then getting jealous of Miguel when he's hooking up with Tori and doing a 180, I'm like, she's a young kid. I wouldn't say, oh, she's promiscuous or whatever bad slur word. She's just a bit princessy. She wants to have her cake and eat it. Yeah, it does look a bit unbelievable when she's meant to be good at karate, but did her dad ever look like Jean-Claude Van Damme? Again, Cobra Kai works with the suspension of disbelief. The high school drama stuff works for the most part in terms of what it's offering. Light-hearted entertainment that touches some dark and current themes without being depressing like Euphoria. I mean, for me, there's only one real high school show that I can relate to personally, My So-Called Life.
Just admit it. I was totally wicked.
Cobra Kai isn't trying to be Euphoria, it's just being itself. Lastly, another recent criticism is the whole Danial LaRusso starting to feel redundant.
I'm so tired of Daniel-san.
He wanted like a bigger part.
I get it. It's a dude pushing 60 with a comb over who isn't overweight but doesn't look residually athletic enough to be a big-time middle-aged sensei of disenfranchised kids. As the seasons progress, he feels maybe too rigidly self-righteous and non-dynamic. My thing is this: the real Danial LaRusso was the one in the first Karate Kid movie.
We gotta deal with this. You deal with things your way, I'll deal with mine.
Underdog hero for a day, and then the story ends there. Who knows if one day he'll be a big car salesman in the valley. The point is, he overcame his high school adversaries and settled into California life. You're alright, LaRusso! Second film, you're alright, LaRusso. By the third, you're like, stop whining, bro.
Just didn't mean for this to happen. But I got problems, okay? Just forget about it, alright?
You couldn't go back to Newark like this.
This is Newark, baby. We don't play that
Cobra Kai Season 1 obviously worked as a role reversal with Daniel-san as a secondary character to washed up Lawrence as the primary character. That's when it works at its best.
Johnny, come on, Johnny, we gotta get back. This guy is such a...
I do give the criticisms credence. My opinion is, in the fourth season, he had new shades of character growth in terms of being less self-satisfied.
Still think your way is the only way.
and taking a leaf from his adversary Lawrence's book.
What is that? We said no more screens. Are you... Give me that.
Dad, are you insane? You know what?
Smashing your son's iPad is of course not good parenting, but saying enough is enough in terms of your overindulged cyberbullying son is like the shock to the system the LaRusso character needed. In summary, the formula from the first season was the winning formula for this show. It's not, in my opinion, artistically past the point of no return. It hasn't jumped the shark, so to speak. But the longer it goes, like any other show, the more cracks will begin to surface. Cobra Kai, like any other series, isn't perfect, but it's resourceful enough to stay interesting, at least thus far. If you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.
In comes this new guy, total dweeb. Calls himself a maverick.
This is not about them, Chris.